What's up, all you saints and sinners? Welcome to another episode of Confessions of a DIY Musician. In this episode, we are going to talk about how to be ready for your recording session. If you're listening to this, if you're watching this, then you're probably a musician that is going to go into the studio anytime now to start recording a new record. And so in this EP episode, we are going to be talking about what we do and how we prepared to record our latest EP called Reflections Volume 2, coming out later in 2025. We are your hosts, Marina City. I am Ryan Argas. This is Tota Brenajud. This is Eric Summers-Araya. And we are here to talk to you all about being a musician and the behind the scenes of Marina City. So we're going to start off right now with, hello. How are you guys today?
Good.
If you've been watching our shows before, you may notice that this camera is really, really good. That's because your boy Toast got a new camera and it's looking sexy.
Yeah, you know.
Right.
He just leapfrogged us.
Christmas came early.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, we were like, hey, Tota, maybe you should get a better camera. He's like, oh, I'll get a better camera. And then got better cameras than both of us.
Took that shit to heart.
Yeah. I was like, all these years of not posting anything, pretty much, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do this right. And these motherfuckers are going to get jealous, and I'm going to love it.
I think
Look at him wallowing in it right now.
I will say, I think that it is important as a musician to invest into your craft, into your stuff.
That's not what the episode's about, right?
I know. We will talk about that in another episode.
Side quest.
Yeah, he's right. Side quest is that, like, in all actuality, like, us being able to invest into recording our own videos and our own photos and everything because we put money into cameras. Like, unfortunately or fortunately, a musician is not just someone who plays music anymore. They got to be good at all these different things. And so we've been able to cut down a lot of costs because we did invest in ourselves, in lights and cameras and recording equipment and everything else. So
yeah, don't listen to them, bro. They have some nice cameras here. They have just pretty much a level under mine. Like, don't be trying to say
the level. You had to bring it up.
No, so anyways, that's not what we're here today. Today we're talking about preparing for the studio. So you guys are going to the studio soon and you're like, what should I do? How should I make sure that this is the best recording possible? So I'm going to ask each individual member of the band right here what they did to prepare for the studio, and we'll kind of go from there. So I will start with Eric. Eric is a drummer. That's why he's sitting on the drums here, as you can see. What did you do to prepare for yourself for recording, going down to Nashville to record Reflections Volume 2?
There's a lot of goat sacrifice.
A lot of Hail Marys.
Yeah, a lot of Hail Marys.
Please help me.
Yeah. You know, just super secret occult ritual stuff that you have to be in the industry to know about.
Lots of blood.
You'll know, guys.
Yeah, you'll know. It's the only way to make it. No.
Yeah.
No, it's first of all, like, the first step is knowing the song and just being prepared for everything. So for me as the drummer, I view the drummer's role as really laying down the foundation. It is my job to make everything really legible for the audience and for the musicians that are going to be playing. So it's thinking about how my part is going to emphasize what everybody else is doing. So, you know, is it appropriate to play a fill here? Is this cueing anything in particular? Is this showcasing something? So, like, step one is just knowing the song backwards and forwards. I always tell people, students, whoever, if you're going into the studio, the thing that you should do beforehand is you should be able to sing everybody's individual part. If I can't sing through the guitar part, if I can't obviously sing through the vocals, you don't have to, like, be good at singing, but it's just about knowing it thoroughly enough where you can picture all of these different parts in your head.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then putting that outline to quote unquote to paper is what my job is.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you real quick. So when you make drum parts, like, for example, sometimes when we make songs, drums come in last, and the difference between, before when we had like loops or, just like placement holders for drums to when the actual drums are in the song, to me is night and day.
Yeah.
Do you prefer to make drum parts before you hear the instrumentals being done? Or would you rather, for example, let the instrumentals and vocals be done to see what spacing you have and to see what hits that you could potentially do?
Sure.
Like what, or maybe pros and cons on both.
So I don't necessarily think that it matters whether you record drums first or last. It's more about what place the song is in.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it's more about, like, I've done I do a lot of remote session work, and I've had a couple sessions where someone will send me just a guitar part and will be like, okay, track drums to it. And that is like the hardest thing because I have no vision of what the finished song is going to sound like.
Right.
I don't know where the vocals are going to be. I don't know where the bass part comes in.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm supposed to lay out. I don't know what's a verse, pre-chorus, chorus. I'm just kind of guessing.
Right.
So for me, like, having all of that information beforehand is instrumental in how you lay down a drum part. For this EP, I laid down basically like a scratch drum track, which, to be honest, was mostly just to see if my home recording setup could produce a good enough quality for the record.
But that's also preparing.
Yeah, true. Which turns out it does. But no. So, like, at the end of the day, what we did in the studio is different than what I recorded at home. So drums will be the last thing to actually record on this record, which is unusual. Typically, you start with drums as the foundation and layer everything there. But I think the key difference is that either way, we had a vision of what the song was going to be beforehand. And that to me is like the most important thing.
Yeah. And to expand on that, like, we literally made multiple demos and recorded as much as possible, as almost as if it was going to be the finished product, as much as possible, so that we can see and laid out everything. So when we went into the studio and we got there to Nashville at 2:00 in the afternoon on Sunday, and we left at 5:00 in the afternoon on Tuesday and tracked 4 songs because we had all prepared what we were going to do when we walked in there. And we changed a bunch of things. Mm-hmm. We added a bunch of things, but we had already the idea of what this song was going to sound like because we recorded as much as possible at our own home studios and going back and forth. And we already were like, that works, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. All this works. Let's go in the studio and actually do it, and then we can layer and maybe change a couple things, but we know that all this works. And I think it's so interesting because, like, you kind of mentioned that the drums are last to record on this EP, which is super unusual because typically it is the first thing that happens. But I think it's been cool that it is last because now we're not tied down to this is what the drums did. That's it.
True.
Now we're like able to like kind of, maybe we should actually do this instead and see where that goes. It's a lot more, I don't know. I mean, you're the drummer and I'm the singer here, so I don't know, but it almost feels like you can even be more creative than what it used to be.
It gives you a little bit more flexibility. Yeah. And to be honest, I'm not saying this to toot my horn like, I'm a good drummer. Yeah. But I do think it's really important for those of you who are drummers is you really have to know how to play to a click.
Yeah.
Your timing has to be locked in. Typically, drums have to be first because a drummer's timing maybe isn't like super strong to a metronome, or maybe you're opting to record without a metronome.
Yeah.
And then everyone has to fit in with the drummer's pocket. We are able to have this luxury where we can do drums last and kind of mess with the structure and change things along the way, because I'm able to lock into a click and record in time. And again, I don't mean to be like, I can play to a click.
That is why you have to rehearse. And one thing I was going to say was, so people are like, well, how did you guys do this? So again, we went in our home studios, recorded as much as we can, demoed. We had drums on there. We had fake drums. We went on Splice and we added drums in there that were like, so Splice, if you don't know what that is, it's a really cool application on your computer that it's like a subscription kind of based thing where basically you pay, I think, $10 a month and you get these tokens. And you go on there and you can find all these samples. And these samples can be based off of your BPM, your key that the song is in. And you can just literally drag and drop that sample right there. So you'd be like, ooh, I like this drum sound. And that's literally what we did. We're like, I like this drum feel. Let's base the song off of that, or let's move forward with this. And then later, Eric goes, all right, scrap all those drum loops and all those samples, and I'm going to go in there and I'll really make it shine and make it really cool. So that's how we kind of built out those things. And I think it's super imperative. Now, obviously, it kind of goes back to, well, how do I record myself? Well, it's one of those things, again, kind of back to the beginning of this podcast, like investing into your stuff. Like we all have recording, we can all record ourselves in our own home studios. Now we had to build that up. Before, back in the day, we had a one track. We put a little camera or a little recorder on the side of the room, and we just played. And now that's a little bit more difficult. But with that being said, you still played it as much as we possibly can to make it sound like this is exactly what the finished song was, and then we went in the studio and then re-recorded everything. But I do definitely think it's really important that you learn how to record yourself as much as possible.
So a couple things to add. One thing that you mentioned earlier was treating every take like it's the final take. So I do think that's an important part of this process. When you're demoing things out, just you might as well treat it like it's the real thing. Yeah. Don't be like, oh, this is the demo take. Yeah. Like when I said earlier I recorded scratch drums, I went in and recorded those drums like with the intention that those were going to be the drums. Yeah. And if they weren't, I have the ability to go home and redo them. But I think that also helps you visualize and get further into the process quicker.
Yeah. And you've had, you did it this time too, multiple drum takes, different styles.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing too, especially with drummers is like the way that I view it is like I'll do one safe take, which is just like, it's my banker, it's I get one take in there that's like, if all else fails, I have this. It's really simple, fills are basic. And then I'll do one where I'll kind of spice it up. I'll add a little bit more fills. And then I'll do what I call the wild take, which is like, I'll go overboard maybe, and, people will have their certain views on comping takes, but it gives the producer the option to be like, well, I really like this crazy fill. I know you were going crazy, but this is cool enough to make it into the final product, so we'll just drop that in here, and then we'll keep like the save take as a base level, but then I really like your chorus for the medium take, so it just gives some options and some variety.
People, and I'm sure if you're a drummer, you're listening, you're like, wait, you didn't play this all in one take? This is not your... It's like, I don't sing everything in one take. The guitar player doesn't play everything in one take. Right. It's like, it allows us to be more creative. If you were doing it all in one take and we're like, yep, that sounds great. I mean, I remember.
Well, but it's also like a lot of times too. Like, don't get it twisted. I will go in. I will go in and record these takes as if they're going to take the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's important to have options. I certainly don't want to show up with 3 of the exact same thing, and they're like, well, this kick drum was 1 millisecond more in time. Like, no one's gonna be. I mean, I guess you could be that tedious, but like, it doesn't, to me, that stuff doesn't matter as much as like your parts that you created in that moment. So sometimes like I do always think about when people talk about recording multiple takes or even like writing multiple songs. Yeah. It's like, okay, we're writing a 5-song EP. We're only going to write 5 songs, but maybe the 6th song that you would have written is going to be the magic one.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing when you're recording takes. It's like, okay, I did 3 takes, but maybe the 4th one would have been like the take.
I mean, that also drives you crazy because you're always like,
totally.
oh, it's not, it's not good enough. I can do one more. I can do one more.
Keep going.
That's the artist struggle.
That is ours. But so, I mean, as far as drums, go ahead.
I did have one other thing to add on the getting equipment and like learning how to record, whether it's video or whether it's audio, is or really like even learning an instrument is don't wait until you have like the thing. Don't wait until you have like, all right, I finally have $1,000 to drop on a camera, or I finally have $2,000 to drop on like a mic set and interface or whatever. Just do it. Cause like learning how to record video or audio just straight from an iPhone and learning, okay, if I put my phone here, this gets a good capture of like the whole kit and it sounds good. Or if I'm doing voice notes and I hold my phone, this distance away, it sounds better than when I hold it this distance. It gives you like a base level understanding. And then when you get something that's like a more pro quality piece of equipment, you already know a little bit more about what you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a break here, and then once we come back, we're going to talk to Toter about how he prepared for the studio that we just went to, and then I'll maybe give you guys a little extra lesson about how to prepare for a singer. But anyways, our break today is for our sponsors.
It's where we get our goats. No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
MarinaCityBand.com. That's right, folks. MarinaCityBand.com. If you're looking and you're like, wow, that guy in the middle, he's really stylish. There's something that he's really wearing that I really love. And well, actually, it's really funny. I got this hat. This trucker hat. It's the Reflections trucker hat at marinacityband.com/shop. I also got this World Tee shirt from marinacityband.com/shop. And you can also be super stylish when you go to marinacityband.com/shop. We always have some really cool things on top of that. And of course, every single order comes with a special collector pin. There are 7 pins to collect, and you may just be able to collect all 7 of them if you go get 7 different things. Who knows? Maybe you don't. Anyways. Also on top of that, there's a Discord community that's super cool on there, where people from all around the world not only just talk about Marina City, but also talk about like the event, about things that they're going through. And it's a really great safe space to just encourage each other. There's the channel about gloating about something that you're really proud of, and having the ability to talk to people all around the world about something that you really care about. Show photos of your pets. Either way, it's really cool. Our Discord, you go to marinacityband.com and you click on the button that says Discord. Join that family there, and we would love to see you and hang out with you there. On top of that, it's always really cool because we have our special sign up for the Crush. And the Crush is really cool because this is our ability to be able to reach out to you for emails and for texting line and for even your home address. We're sending Christmas cards to people right now that have given our home address. So go to marinacityband.com/ not even slash, just join the Crush right there and put in your name, your number, and your address, and we'll send you guys some goodies. So thank you guys so much. Now we're back at it talking to Toter about preparing for guitar for the studio. So we just came back from Nashville to record our new EP that's coming out later in 2025 called Reflections Volume 2. You can listen to Reflections Volume 1 right now on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your music. But this EP is a continuation to it. So, Toter, how do you prepare to get into the studio as a guitar player?
Yeah. Well, one, it's so much fun. Going into the studio for me, it's a blast because my guitar parts get treated like vocal parts. You know what I mean? Like we have harmonies, we have comps, we have doubles, we're panning stuff. We're using different guitars to get different tones. And I'll get into that a little bit later, but I treat the studio a little bit different. So I treat it in 2 parts. I treat it into the rhythm section of the guitar recording process, and I also treat lead guitar a little bit different as well. So with rhythm, I guess we can dial it back to pre-production when like we're still sending stuff to each other throughout the demo process. And like Eric said, you want to make sure you kind of dial in your part so everybody knows what's going on. Everybody has a clear picture of what you want to do. And you always want to, like, for example, and it's very situational. Like if you guys need a guitar line, I'll send like a couple of different variations of that line, whether it be something that's funky, something that's more airy, more like vibey, or something more solo-y or hard, I guess. So you just kind of want to like give you a little spectrum of things, and then I'll see what you guys bite on. Because when we're sending each other things remotely, like let's be honest, it's not efficient. It really isn't. Like if I were to show you guitar parts here, it would just be, you'd be like, oh, that, yes, no, boom. 5 minutes later, we got the part.
Right.
But so anyway, you do want to go through that pre-production process. So when you do get into the studio, everybody's on the same page. And with rhythm section parts, which is like chords and riffs and stuff, I pretty much want to leave no room for improvisation. I want to leave just, it's what you hear is what you get. With lead lines, I go into the studio having an idea of the lead line, but I want to leave a little bit of space for improv, for that studio magic moment when the producer is, locked in with you and he's giving you tips and whatever, just like little tricks and stuff. I feel like the studio magic is a very, very real thing. And that's why I leave a little bit of the lead line magic up to the studio as well, for stuff to form there. And in terms of like sounds, this is also something really fun. You can use, so again, playing live and playing in the studio to me are, again, two different things. When you're live, you're not really playing the parts exactly how you played them in the record. And you have a little bit more room for creativity when you go live, you know, whether it be dynamic creativity or you don't want to keep playing the same solo a million times, so you change it up a little bit. So, but when you are in the studio, I feel like you got to be pretty locked into what you're doing. And for example, going back to the sounds, we were recording the riff of, well, I can't really say the songs yet because they're not released yet, but we were recording a riff in the studio and we felt like it should be a little bit lower in terms of the tone. And I was switching my pickups and stuff like that. And, you know, it wasn't really getting it done. So in the studio, our producer, Adam, he brought out a baritone guitar, and I've used the baritone guitar once before on Tanzanite, when we were back in Nashville a couple years ago. And he brought it out, and it's pretty much a longer neck on the guitar, which enables you to have lower tunings and to really hold down that lower tuning. You're kind of getting to the register of a bass guitar at that point. And you really get that oomph underneath like the main riff. You know, you don't want to pan these different sounds to the same level. What you want to do is just like having your main sound that everybody's happy with, and then just kind of mix in wherever you need with the bass tone. And same thing goes for brighter sounds. We used the Fender at one point for one song for one part because we needed a brighter part. And as everybody knows, Fenders have great bright cleans, and you switch on the distortion and it turns very bright. So yeah, it's really interesting. Like you're mixing a bunch of guitars into one track. And I don't know. I think that's super cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's, as someone who, I mean, I do play guitar, but not in the sense that you do. It's really cool to see it like, oh, so that's how that sound is made. Yeah. It's not just one guitar or one take. It's like all these things Frankenstein together to make something really unique. Yeah. And I think, I mean, I'm really excited for Reflections 2, Volume 2, because I just feel like you were able to really stretch your wings a little farther on this one. And
it was probably one of the more creative sessions sound wise, that I've been a part of in terms of Marina City recordings.
Yeah, because I feel like most of the sounds like, you got the sound, cool.
Yeah,
that's the sound.
Yeah, that's the sound, like, cool. And it's not a bad sound, but you can always push it a little bit more. You can push. We definitely pushed the envelope a lot more than prior recording sessions.
The one specific moment that I remember, and I can't name the song, but it's a song that I know that everyone that's listening to this is going to like, when we do the kind of breakdown to it.
Right.
And realizing, oh, that's what you use this pedal for. And then you use this and you just double it and you get this crazy sound. Yeah. That was really cool to see.
Really exciting.
And I don't know if we would have ever done that. We would have just been like, okay, this was cool. Like you said, this is cool enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I also think what's cool about the process too, and something that I think Toter was really exceptional at, especially this time around, is like not being precious and being like really flexible about exploration. Right? Yes. And especially like it's tough for any of us as instrumentalists to go into a studio and like take critiques from your band members or producers who maybe don't play the instrument that you do, and we'll just be like, hey, can you do something more like,
yeah,
you know? That's what I did.
Yeah. And then you just you have to take that to heart, and you can't be like, well, what's wrong with what I did? You know?
Yeah.
And it's just about like, it's about that collaborative energy where you're in the studio and it's like, you guys are exploring this thing together, and like you have to be open to anything that's going to help get the finished product the best that it can be. Yeah. And it doesn't matter where that critique is coming from, you know? Yeah. Like to me as a drummer, and I'm sure this is true for all of you guys as well, like the opinion of the lay person is almost more valuable. Yeah. Like the less that you know about drums and then critique my playing will give me a lot more insight into what like a general audience is looking for. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, I'm not playing for drummers. Like this music isn't for, I mean, it also is for drummers, but it's not exclusively for drummers. Right. This music isn't exclusively for guitar players or for vocalists. So to have like the opinions of people who don't play your specific instrument are going to be super valued.
I remember there was a adjustment period for me because at one point I did play for the part. I was just that's my part. I made that part. It was very I me.
Yeah.
You know, it was and when you kind of break down that wall, when you kind of let go of your little ego that's in there telling you that like it's the best thing ever, and when you're in a room with people who truly want to do what's best for the song, it's kind of where the magic happens. You know.
Yeah. I mean, I personally think that Reflections 1 and 2 was my favorite time we've ever had writing stuff. I just feel like we're just really good at what we're doing now, and we just have a really good flow. And I really like, with like Simulation, a lot of that record was recorded and written during quarantine. So like a lot of us, we were never, I don't know if we ever were in the room together ever playing those songs until after the record was basically out and we had to prepare for an EP release show. Where this, like, I really do think that it is important that even though that you guys can send stuff and record yourself, I do think it's important that you get with the band members at some point. Like for us, we got together, maybe Toter or Eric would bring up an idea. Maybe I would start like spinning some idea based off of their idea, and then like, okay, let's look at that at rehearsal. We get together, we start building it out together, and then we all go home and go, hey, I'm gonna work on this, I'm gonna work on that, come back, and then we come back again. We're like, okay, this is what I did. So it's this collaborative, but also a little separate, come back, and I think that was really fun, and I think that was really productive for it. So I think that all in all, when you get into the studio, when you're going to the studio, I think what's really important if you've been tuning out and you're coming back in are these things. One is be prepared for everything, right? So having multiple guitars. Eric actually recorded with multiple snare drums. You didn't talk about even multiple snare drums within the song.
Yeah.
You were like, hey, maybe the chorus is going to sound like this, but the verse is going to sound like this.
Different tunings.
Toter came in. Here's a baritone guitar. Here's a high sounding guitar. Here's my middle one, my normal kind. Here's a bunch of different sounds. Eric's like, here's 3 different takes. Play with it. We walked in. The way that we started with the demo when it first initially happened, and we let our mind explore to where it is now is really different, but the ability to keep going back and forth and keep tuning, fine tuning the song is
flexibility.
Flexibility of the song is why we were able to go into the studio and finish 4 songs within like 2 days, just nonstop going that way. And so that's the same thing when it comes down to vocals. So like for me, typically when I'm writing, Eric and Toter will come with some kind of baseline idea, and I'm inspired by it, and I just kind of like let my mind kind of just like spit out songs, spit out a melody. And maybe I'm not even sure what I'm going to talk about lyrically yet, but I'm just kind of singing some kind of melody. For me, always need to figure out a really good melody, and then I can figure out lyrics that fit that melody. And so typically what happens is that when I'm trying to figure out a melody, there's some kind of wording that I'm kind of saying that I keep coming back to, which sparks an idea of what I want to sing about within this song. So we have podcasts that talk all about this. So you can go back on some of the other podcasts about writing songs and see what I talk about there. But I bring that up because this particular 2-part EP, the guys were a lot more vocal about what was potentially cool or not. And maybe it was annoying. And maybe I fucking hated it, but no. For real, it also pushed to be like, oh, I thought this was really cool, and apparently it's not really cool. I thought this was the chorus, and apparently it's not the chorus. It's the pre-chorus. Now I made it even a cooler chorus. Oh, that's not the chorus. Let's make that even better. Like, I think typically, I don't know if ever really Toter would have ever said anything about the melody lines or lyrics before that. Eric kind of brought some stuff up in the Crush before that, but like, I think this time was the first time that the both guys were, and I'm glad, felt comfortable being like, hey, we could push that. Why don't you try this to this?
Yeah, dude, you tore apart our parts all the time, so we got to return the favor.
You don't need to. No, but they did that, and I'm really excited about where everything went towards. And sometimes I push back too, where it's like, hey, I know what you guys I know what you're trying to say, and maybe I need to do it better, but I'm trying to have this as the message. So how do we get to what you're trying to do and what I'm trying to do and get to the middle? And let's like kind of figure that out too.
I mean, that's true for everybody, you know, and it's like, it's kind of what I was saying earlier about like not being precious about your parts. But then there's also a point where you do have to put your foot down because like at the end of the day, again, we do this selfishly. We're writing music that we want to hear out in the world. It is about us, you know.
Yeah.
We're not catering to fans, though we love you guys and you know we cater to you to a certain point. But in terms of like the writing aspect, like we're writing the music that we want to hear, we want to do. But it's like, it's that ability to be like selfish and stand firm about like, this is my vision, this is what I want, but also be able to step back and be like, but this is what is going to serve the big picture the best.
And again, it's like, hey, this is the vision. This is what I want to sing about. So if I like, help me get to that with maybe something better than what I'm doing.
Right.
And I think that, like, to me, it's hard too. Like if I have a really good melody and then someone comes in and goes, that melody sucks. Like every time I'm trying to write a new melody, I keep going back to it. So it takes me a bit. And to be honest, for me, I feel like I work better alone when I'm like, okay, let me step back and do this. Because typically I want to like see a vision out and then you could tell me like this sucks kind of thing. So with that said, I may come up with an idea, the guys like the idea, the vision I'm going towards, then I go and retune it, and then I come back, I'm like, this is everything that I got. And they go, okay, maybe we could fix this, we could fix that. Okay, great, let's do that, and we go from there. So
this also circles back to like putting your all at every step of the demo process. Really like making sure that your vision comes across. Because we've all had times where we submit an idea and it's not as fleshed out. You know, we're picturing, we have this mental image in our head and we're just like, this is kind of it, but not really. And I don't want to put the effort to make it more it. Yeah. And then everyone hears it and they're just like, I don't get it.
My least for me, I never ever want you guys. Like if I have an idea, I want to flesh it out as much as I possibly can because I do not want to send. Well, it'd be kind of like this, but it's not like this. Like if I did this and it's like, I'm supposed to see your vision, but your vision is not even fully like clear of what that is.
Or like the perfect example is like when you have like a rough mix of a song that you just recorded and you like want to show it to like a family member and you go, all right, this is the song. Oh, but like you can't stop interrupting. You're just like, oh yeah, but the guitars here, they're going to be a little bit softer. So it's like imagine. Oh, and then we're going to add like a keyboard thing here, but just like imagine.
Dude, I hate that so much. And that's why I never show anyone our songs until they're done.
I don't show anybody until they're done. And then I also like if someone's trying to show me an early demo of a song and they start in with that, I just go, dude, if you're not ready to show this yet, that's totally fine. Like I'm happy to listen. I really am, and like I won't give you critique unless you ask for it. But like to me, that's such like a sign of like, oh, I'm not like ready for it.
Yeah, like Lindsay, I'll never. This is it. This is the finished product. I'm never like, hey, check this out. Tell me if this is. Maybe if I'm stuck, but. Never really actually I'll ask you guys your opinion on something I'm like stuck on before I'm asking like someone else because I really want them to see it. So we are going over a little over time here, so I do want to again some things that you want to do as a singer just to prepare for. Okay, so you're a singer.
But before you say that, one more thing, and I know we're coming up at the end here, so maybe you could take like a few minutes to talk about this. But you did something in the studio that I thought was extremely impressive, and I feel like it deserves its own respect in its own little right. But you recorded 4 songs in a matter of 12 hours. Like it was just one day. Like I believe it was. So I got done with guitars at like noon or like 1, and then we stayed to the studio till like 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. Yeah. So whatever the fuck that time is. But I thought that was extremely impressive. Thanks, and the thing is like you were singing extremely rough, harsh parts where you're like just going. There's some screams in there, and you took like 10, 15 takes. You know, sometimes and. I was for sure thinking that the next day your voice was going to be shot. Yeah. And then at the end of the studio session, you remember I asked you, I was like, you going to be good like tomorrow? And then this man said it in the most normal, like, I thought your voice would be shot by then, but he was just like, no, man, I'll be good. Next morning, wakes up, hey, good morning, dude, what's up? I'm like, dude, that's years of prep and
goat sacrifices.
And goat sacrifices, dude. Like,
well, you remember we went on tour in the early on, or maybe, I don't even know if you were in the band at this time, maybe you do, that like the second show I was shot.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was done. And so this is what I really appreciate you saying that. And what I do is that I do the same thing every time. First of all, it's warming up, and I warm up my vocals for an hour. I mean, these guys literally hear me do it for an hour of me and they're just like, good. But I'm literally from very beginning all the way to it. I'm doing my special drink that I've talked about before, which is a pineapple drink, warm it up, literally pineapple juice with cayenne pepper and honey. I drink that hot. Okay. If I really need to figure out how to hit a note, and I didn't do it at the studio, but if I do, and I'm not necessarily getting it, sometimes what I'll do is I'll take a straw, and you get it on Amazon, which is like a vocal straw, and it's like a big fat straw. You put it in a water bottle, and you blow while you're doing the melody of the song that you're trying to sing. So it's like, ooh, and the water is literally going, and the reason why that is that just like how easy it is to work out in the water when you're swimming and you're kicking your legs and you're like, I can kick my legs forever and I can do all these different things and I can't feel anything. But if I do that while I'm kicking my legs outside the water and I only do like 20 of them and I feel like sore, it's the same thing with your vocal cords. They're a muscle, right? So when I'm underwater with my vocal cords and I'm doing and I'm trying to hit those high notes. So a lot of times people will reach the high notes and they'll go like high like this, but the high notes are actually in front of you. So it's like, if you think about hitting your notes this way instead of hitting your notes this way, you can hit way higher notes. And if you do that in the water, you can actually train your vocals and train your mind to hit those notes in a way that doesn't feel like it's straining, so that when you actually do it out of the water, your body knows, oh, this is what I got to do. So that's something that I really like to do as well when I'm having trouble. And like Toda said, this is many years of singing a lot. I'm doing 200 shows a year now with just doing hotels and restaurants and weddings. And so I have to learn how to take care of my voice before and after. Get good night rest, really good night rest. Do not scream, talk loud or anything. I talk about that in other studios, like literally keeping an even keel. And you'll be able to keep your voice to do it correctly. So when you're a singer, the other thing too is muscle memory. So I like to also, the songs that are the hardest to sing are typically the newest songs that I have to sing. The older songs, no matter how difficult that song is easier for me to sing because it's almost muscle memory. It is muscle memory for me to know how to hit those notes. When I was first singing You Shook Me All Night Long by AC/DC for the wedding band, it was nearly impossible. Now I could do it 3 times in a row and it's totally fine. I know where I could place my vocal cords. I know where that goes. So when you go into the studio, before you do it, record yourself singing this song a billion times. Sing the song while you're in the car a ton of times. Learn how to sing the song the way that you want to do it. So when you go to the studio, it's just on autopilot. You know how to do this and it doesn't hurt. So those are some things. I know this is a longer episode, but anything that you guys want to talk about right before we finish it up?
No goats were actually harmed in the recording.
No goats are actually harmed for the actual recording.
Just disclaimer.
Thank you guys so much for listening. We hope that we prepared you for your studio session. If you have some questions, please reach out to us at thecrush@marinacityband.com. Hit us up on social media, everything at Marina City Band. We are more than we're more than happy to talk to you guys more about your writing session, how we can help you guys as well. Make sure you subscribe to Confessions of a DIY Musician on YouTube and on Spotify. And thank you guys, as always, for hanging out with us. And we will see you next time.
Peace out, yo.
Adios.
Bye-bye.